bought my dream home, and stashed it in my mom's safe for a few days. But the next morning, I woke to find my mom and sister gone, along with the cash. They sent me a text, "Appreciate the money. Now we can live our dream life." I couldn't help but laugh. Because the bag only held. I took out $10 million too. Can you imagine having your entire life savings, your future, vanish overnight, stolen by the very people you trusted most? My own mom and sister. Yeah, you heard that right. But here's the kicker. I'm smiling now. And if you stick around, I'm going to tell you exactly why. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about what happens when you turn that pain into something powerful. Before I dive into the absolute madness, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Because trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail of this journey. Let me take you back to where it all began. My childhood was, well, it was real. We lived in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in Portland. Peeling wallpaper, that constant, damp smell of mold. My mom, Diane, worked herself ragged, pulling double shifts at the diner. She'd come home, feet swollen, smelling like grease and exhaustion. Money was always tight. Christmas was one modest gift. Birthdays meant a homemade cake. Vacations? That word wasn't even in our vocabulary. I knew from a young age that education was my only way out. While other kids were out playing, I was studying. While my classmates partied, I was working at the grocery store, saving every single penny. My determination? It wasn't just strong, it was an obsession. I remember my high school counselor, Mrs. Patterson, once told me, "Mackenzie, you work like someone's chasing you." And honestly, she wasn't wrong. I was being chased by the fear of staying trapped, of never breaking free from that cycle of poverty. All that grinding paid off. I landed a full scholarship to MIT. Even then, I worked 2 part-time jobs just to cover living expenses. Ramen noodles were my gourmet meals. Free campus events were my entertainment. And every spare dollar? I sent it home to help my mom and my younger sister, Rebecca. College was a blur of lectures, coding marathons, and late-night library shifts. After graduation, I dove headfirst into the tech world. Junior developer, then boom. Within 2 years, I had enough connections and, frankly, enough guts to launch my own startup, Secure Flow. We specialized in encryption software for financial institutions. It was brutal. 18-hour days, maxed-out credit cards, and the constant, crushing terror of failure. But we made it. By our 3rd year, we were pulling in major clients, turning significant profits. And, through all of it, my relationship with my mom, Diane, was complicated. On the surface, she was my biggest cheerleader, telling all her friends about my success. But sometimes, when I'd excitedly share a breakthrough, I'd catch a flicker in her eyes. Something I couldn't quite place back then. Resentment, she'd quickly change the subject to Rebecca's struggles or her latest health problem. As my company grew, I made sure to share the wealth. I bought Mom a beautiful, comfortable 3-bedroom house, the garden she always dreamed of. Paid off all her medical debts. Gave her a monthly allowance, so generous she could finally quit waitressing. She'd accept it all with a smile that never quite reached her eyes, saying things like, "Well, I guess all those years of sacrifice were worth it." Or, at least one of my girls made something of herself. Then there was Rebecca. 5 years younger than me, and honestly, she seemed allergic to responsibility. While I was driven, she just drifted. Dropped out of community college, cycled through retail jobs, always had some drama with friends or boyfriends. Mom always made excuses. She's just finding herself, or not everyone can be as focused as you, Mackenzie. In recent years, Rebecca's financial dependence escalated. Every few months, it was another emergency, car repairs, overdue rent, unexpected medical bills. I always sent money. But if I ever dared to suggest career counseling or help finding a steadier job, I'd get tearful phone calls from Rebecca to Mom, complaining that I thought I was better than everyone else. Last Thanksgiving, something felt off. Rebecca was constantly stepping outside for hushed phone calls. When I asked, Mom quickly jumped in, saying Rebecca was seeing someone promising. The topic was shut down. Looking back now, those secretive glances they exchanged? They should have been a screaming red flag, but I love them. They were my family. I never, not for a second, doubted their love. So, when the offer came to acquire Secure Flow for $20 million, they were the first people I called. Mom cried, told me how proud she was. Rebecca squealed, immediately asking if this meant I could finally help her start that boutique she'd always talked about. I was so wrapped up in my own excitement, I didn't even notice how quickly their thoughts turned to what my success meant for them. The acquisition took months, endless negotiations, legal reviews, mountains of paperwork. And through it all, I had one thing on my mind, my dream home. I'd found it in the hills overlooking the city, a modern architectural marvel, walls of glass, an infinity pool, space for a home office, and guest rooms for family visits. Yeah, family visits. At $28 million, it was extravagant, I know. But I planned to offer $10 million in cash to beat out any other buyers. My life felt perfect. My company's tech would reach more people, I had financial security beyond anything I could have ever imagined growing up, and I was about to buy my dream home. I was even engaged to Jason, a kind, grounded environmental engineer who loved me for me, not my bank account. I had no idea, absolutely no idea how quickly it would all unravel. The day I walked into Pacific Northwest Bank to withdraw $10 million, that day is burned into my memory. My private banking manager, Mr. Thompson, a balding man with perpetually furrowed brows, practically fretted when I told him my plan. "Miss Walker," he said, tapping his pen nervously, "I strongly advise against this. A wire transfer is standard. Cash presents unnecessary risks." I knew he'd resist. "I understand your concern, Mr. Thompson," I countered, "but this property has multiple buyers. A cash offer gives me the edge." He leaned in, almost whispering. "Even so, we're talking $10 million in physical currency. That's $20,500 bills. It'll fill several large duffel bags and weigh over 200 pounds. I've done my research." "I'm aware," I told him, trying to sound calm. "I've arranged for private security. The money will only be in my possession for 48 hours at most." After an hour of arguing and signing what felt like 100 liability waivers, Mr. Thompson reluctantly started the process. I had to wait 3 business days for the bank to literally bring in all that cash from regional reserves. It was a logistical nightmare. But honestly, it just made me even more convinced that this cash offer would blow the sellers away. That evening, when I told Jason about my plan over dinner at our favorite Italian spot, his reaction was exactly like Mr. Thompson's. "Mackenzie, this is insane," he exclaimed, dropping his fork, his penne alla vodka completely forgotten. "You're putting yourself at risk. What if someone follows you? What if there's a robbery?" "I've hired Kyle's security firm," I quickly explained, referring to my college friend who runs a top-notch personal security company. 2 armed guards will escort me from the bank to Mom's house. The money will be in her safe overnight, and then they'll take me to the closing." His brown eyes, usually so calm, were filled with genuine concern. "Why Mom's safe? Why not a bank safety deposit box?" I tried to reassure him. "Bank boxes have size limits. Besides, Mom's safe is practically a vault. I had it installed for her 3 years ago for those ridiculous porcelain figurines she worries so much about." Jason ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture I knew always signaled his frustration. "This is unnecessary, Mac. Wire transfers exist for a reason. The sellers have had 3 offers fall through due to financing," I insisted, reaching for his hand. "Cash means certainty. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. It's one night, and then we'll have our dream home." He squeezed my hand, but he didn't look convinced. "I just don't understand why you won't let me come with you," he said. "Because you have that huge presentation for the river restoration project tomorrow," I replied. "It's just one night. I'll be perfectly safe at Mom's." 2 days later, I was back at the bank, standing in a private room as 2 tellers counted out $10 million right in front of me. It was surreal. The stacks of cash were placed into special tamper-evident bags, then loaded into 3 nondescript duffel bags. Kyle, true to his word, had sent 2 of his best men, Trevor, a former military police officer, and Marcus, who'd done executive protection for tech CEOs. The drive to Mom's house was intense. We took an indirect route, changing lanes constantly, just to make sure we weren't being followed. Trevor drove, while Marcus sat next to me in the back, his hand never far from his concealed weapon. When we pulled up to Mom's modest suburban home, her eyes practically bugged out at the sight of the security team. Rebecca was there too, supposedly helping Mom prepare for a garden club meeting. Now, I know that was just another lie. Goodness, Mackenzie, Mom exclaimed as Trevor and Marcus carried the bags inside. Is all this security really necessary? $10 million isn't something to take lightly, I told her, directing them towards the home office where the safe was. It was built into the wall, hidden behind a sliding bookcase. A bit dramatic, I know, but Mom had insisted on that hidden feature when I had it installed. It was a serious piece of equipment: fireproof, electronic lock, backup key system. It easily held all 3 duffel bags, with room to spare. As Trevor and Marcus placed the money inside, I couldn't help but notice Mom and Rebecca hovering in the doorway, their eyes glued to those bags. At the time, I thought it was just natural curiosity. Asterisk now? Now I understand it was something far more cold, far more calculating. Asterisk, we'll pick you up tomorrow at 9 a.m., Trevor said, as they got ready to leave. Call if you need anything. After they left, the house was filled with this odd, thick tension. Mom was buzzing around the kitchen, preparing dinner with unusual enthusiasm. Rebecca, meanwhile, was peppering me with questions. Where exactly was the house? Was I putting a similar safe there? At dinner, Mom started asking things she'd never shown interest in before. So, this money, she said, twirling spaghetti around her fork. It's all in cash? Not checks or anything. Yep, all cash. Mostly $500 bills, I replied, trying to eat. And the bank just let you walk out with that much? Rebecca asked, her voice a little too high. Not exactly. There was quite a process. And, as you saw, I hired security. Mom nodded slowly, thoughtfully. And these people tomorrow? They're expecting cash? They won't find it strange. The real estate world operates differently at this level, I explained. Cash offers speak volumes. Later that evening, Mom got a call. She took it in her bedroom, door closed. When she came out, her cheeks were flushed. Everything okay? I asked. Oh, just Helena from the garden club, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. I slept in my old bedroom that night. The twin bed felt tiny and uncomfortable for my adult frame. Around midnight, I thought I heard whispers in the hallway. I brushed it off, my imagination, maybe Mom checking on me like she used to when I was little. If only I had known, if I had known that would be the last normal night of my life, I would have paid attention. The unusual interest in the money, the secret phone calls, that subtle, almost vibrating excitement in the house. Instead, exhausted from the stress, I fell into a deep sleep, utterly unaware of the nightmare waiting for me in the morning. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through those faded curtains in my childhood bedroom. For a split second, I felt like a teenager again, ready for another day of high school. Then, reality crashed back. I was 31, about to buy my dream home, with $10 million locked in my mother's safe. The house was unusually quiet. Normally, Mom would be in the kitchen by 7 a.m., the smell of coffee and toast filling the air. I checked my phone, 7:45 a.m. Plenty of time before Trevor and Marcus arrived at 9. Mom? I called out, padding down the hallway in my pajamas. No answer. I knocked on her bedroom door. Still nothing. I pushed it open. The bed was made, looked like it hadn't been slept in. Strange, but not alarming yet. Maybe she left early for her garden club meeting? Rebecca? I tried, knocking on the guest room door. Silence. An unsettling feeling began to creep over me. I walked towards the home office. The bookcase that concealed the safe was slightly ajar. I slid it open fully. My heartbeat accelerated. The safe door stood open. Its contents gone. No duffel bags. No $10 million. Nothing. No, no, no. I whispered, my voice rising with each repetition until I was screaming. No. I tore through the house, checking every room, Every closet, as if the money could somehow just be hiding. In the kitchen, propped against the coffee maker, I found a note. Written in my mother's neat handwriting, "Mackenzie, thanks for your money. Now we can live our dream life. Don't try to find us. Mom and Rebecca." My legs gave way. I collapsed to the kitchen floor, the note clutched in my trembling hand. The room spun. The truth settled in my gut like a block of ice. My own mother and sister had stolen everything and fled. I fumbled for my phone, calling Jason, barely able to form coherent sentences through my sobbing. "They're gone. The money, all of it, they took everything." I managed to choke out. His voice, thick with sleep, was instantly concerned. "Mackenzie, slow down. Who's gone? What happened?" "Mom and Rebecca. They stole the money. $10 million, Jason. They cleared out the safe and disappeared." 20 minutes later, Jason burst through the front door. He was still in his sleep clothes, hair disheveled, eyes wild with worry. He found me at the kitchen table, staring blankly at my phone. "I've called them 16 times," I said, not even looking up. "Mom's phone goes straight to voicemail. Rebecca's rings once, then disconnects. They've blocked me." Jason knelt beside me, taking my trembling hands in his. "We need to call the police. Right now." The next few hours were a blur. 2 patrol officers, then Detective Sarah Martinez arrived, sharp-eyed, salt and pepper hair. She took notes, her expression giving nothing away. "Let me make sure I understand," she said after I finished. "You voluntarily brought $10 million in cash to your mother's house, placed it in her safe, and now both your mother and sister are gone, along with the money." Put like that, it sounded impossibly, painfully naive. I nodded, shame burning my cheeks. "And you have documentation for this withdrawal?" I showed her the bank receipts, the liability waivers on my phone. She photographed each one. "Do you have reason to believe they were planning this?" "Any unusual behavior?" "Nothing concrete," I admitted. "They seemed interested in the money, but that's natural, isn't it? $10 million in cash isn't something you see every day." Detective Martinez's expression softened, just slightly. "Miss Walker, I'll be honest. This is complex. You willingly brought the money to her house. It could potentially be argued this was a gift or a family arrangement gone wrong." "A gift? I was buying a house. They knew that. This was theft." "I understand, and we will investigate thoroughly," she said, "but you should prepare yourself. Family matters involving money can be challenging from a legal perspective." After the detective left, promising an alert, Jason just held me. I alternated between raw sobbing and pure, burning rage. "Who does this?" I kept asking. "What kind of mother steals from her own daughter?" Then my phone chimed. An unknown number. With shaking hands, I opened it. It was a photo. Mom and Rebecca, boarding what looked like a private jet. Huge sunglasses, wide, smug smiles. The message read, "Always wanted to fly private. Thanks for making it possible." 5 minutes later, a voicemail notification. It was Rebecca. Probably a burner phone. "Hey sis," her voice dripped with false sweetness. "Bet you're freaking out right now. Well, get over it. You've had everything handed to you your whole life, while Mom sacrificed everything. All those years of watching you succeed while I struggled. That money is our turn. You can make another $10 million with your big brain. But this is our only chance. Don't bother looking for us. By the time you hear this, we'll be in a country with no extradition treaty. Love you." The casual, gut-wrenching cruelty of her words felt like physical blows. Had I really been handed everything? I'd worked myself to exhaustion for years, taken enormous risks, and always shared my success with them. I bought Mom a house, paid her bills, helped Rebecca countless times. They planned this, I whispered, the sickening realization finally dawning. This wasn't opportunistic. They saw the news about the company acquisition months ago. They started planning then. Jason paced the living room. "We need to call Detective Martinez back, tell her about the text and voicemail." I nodded numbly, still trying to process the sheer magnitude of the betrayal. My own mother and sister. The people I'd trusted most in the world. The people I thought would always have my back. They saw my success not as something to celebrate, but as something to exploit. As Jason called the detective, another terrible thought struck me. The house. My dream home. The purchase that was supposed to happen today. I was now $10 million short, with no way to replace it in time. The life I'd worked so hard to build was crumbling around me. And the worst part? The people who destroyed it were the very ones I'd tried hardest to lift up along the way. The next few days blurred into a miserable haze of police interviews, lawyer consultations, and absolutely zero sleep. Detective Sarah Martinez became a constant presence, her calm, professional demeanor offering a small, much-needed anchor in the raging storm my life had become. "We've confirmed they left on a private charter to the Cayman Islands," she told me 3 days later, sitting at my kitchen table, as I nursed a cup of coffee I couldn't even taste. "From there, we believe they took another flight, but we're still tracing it." "How did they even arrange a private plane?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Your sister contacted a charter service 2 weeks ago. Paid cash, presumably some of your money, and used fake identification." Very methodical, Detective Martinez hesitated, then added, "This level of planning suggests they may have had help." "What kind of help?" The implication hit me like a physical blow. "You're saying my mother was talking to criminals, planning this?" Her expression remained neutral. "We found searches on her computer for 4 countries without extradition treaties, dating back 3 months. Encrypted email exchanges we're still trying to decode. It was like discovering a stranger had been living in my mother's skin. The woman who lectured me about returning extra change, the one who'd prided herself on honesty, had been meticulously plotting a multi-million-dollar theft for months." "What about relatives?" she asked. "Could they be staying with family?" I shook my head. "Mom has a sister in Arizona, Aunt Pamela, but they haven't spoken in years. Rebecca mentioned cousins in Florida once, but I've never met them." Detective Martinez made a note. "We'll look into both. Even estranged family can become attractive when there's money involved." After she left, I called Richard Bennett, the family lawyer who handled all my company contracts. His response was blunt. "This is theft, plain and simple. The bank documentation proves the money was yours." Detective Martinez said it might be complicated because I put it in Mom's safe willingly, I explained. Richard took off his glasses, pinching the bridge of his nose. "It complicates things, yes, but it doesn't change the fundamental crime. However, pursuing this internationally will be a massive challenge. Emergency motions, contacting authorities in other countries, freezing accounts." "How long will that all take?" I asked, dread building in my stomach. His face told me what I already knew, what I didn't want to hear. "Weeks minimum. Possibly months. And even then, success isn't guaranteed, especially with how carefully they've planned." I left his office with a heavy, sinking feeling. The legal process would be lengthy, expensive, and potentially fruitless. Meanwhile, my mother and sister were out there, free, spending my money with abandon. The emotional toll was quickly becoming unbearable. I started seeing Dr. Ella Foster, a therapist specializing in trauma and betrayal, twice a week. Her office was softly lit, filled with plants and abstract art, a calming space, but even there, I struggled to articulate the depth of my pain. "I keep replaying every interaction," I confessed during our 3rd session, looking for signs I missed. Was Mom always this person? Did she always resent me? Was every "I love you" just part of a long con? Dr. Foster leaned forward. "The human mind isn't designed to process betrayal of this magnitude, Mackenzie, especially from those we've categorized as safe. It challenges our entire understanding of reality." "I trusted them completely," I whispered. "I would have given them anything they asked for. Why steal from me?" "Some people develop distorted thinking patterns around money and fairness," she explained. "They create a narrative where they deserve this, where taking was justified because of perceived imbalances. It doesn't make it true, and it certainly doesn't make it right." These sessions helped, but only marginally. Nightmares plagued my sleep, dreams where I chased Mom and Rebecca through endless airport terminals, always just a few steps behind. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, reaching for Jason, only to find his side of the bed empty. He'd started sleeping in the guest room, claiming my restlessness kept him awake. Our relationship was becoming another casualty. What had once been a partnership full of warmth and understanding was now strained, stretched thin. Small disagreements flared into arguments. Silence grew between us like a physical, suffocating distance. "You need to start thinking about moving forward," Jason said one evening after I'd spent hours on the phone with Detective Martinez, discussing a possible sighting of Mom in Singapore. "It's been almost 6 weeks, Mackenzie." "Moving forward?" I snapped. "They stole $10 million from me." "I know," he sighed, exhaustion heavy in his voice. "But you're letting this consume you. You've barely left the apartment. You're not sleeping, not eating properly. You even turned down that consulting offer from Next Tech because you can't focus." "I can't focus right now." "Exactly my point, Mac. Your entire life has become about finding them. There's more to you than this situation." I couldn't make him understand. This wasn't just about the money. It was about the complete shattering of my reality. Every childhood memory was now tainted. Every sacrifice my mother had supposedly made for me was called into question. Meanwhile, the investigation kept digging, uncovering more disturbing details. Mom had apparently maintained a secret email account for years, one I knew nothing about. Detective Martinez found communications with Rebecca dating back 18 months, discussing what they called the plan. There were references to casino visits and significant gambling debts Mom had accumulated completely behind my back. Bank records showed she'd taken out a second mortgage on the house I bought her, presumably to cover those debts. And there were records of small thefts from previous employers, nothing major enough for prosecution, but establishing a pattern of dishonesty that I'd been utterly blind to. The most disturbing discovery? A folder in a crawl space above Mom's closet. Detailed notes on my company's acquisition. Articles about my success, meticulously annotated in her handwriting. And a list titled Mackenzie's Weaknesses. At the very top, trusts family completely. Each new discovery was another knife twisting in an already fatal wound. The mother I thought I knew, the woman who'd worked double shifts, who'd sat up with me through nightmares, who'd beamed with pride at my college graduation, she was a carefully constructed fiction. Or maybe, worse, she had once been that person, but somewhere along the way, resentment and greed had corroded whatever love she felt for me, leaving behind only calculation and cold, hard opportunity. As the investigation dragged into its 6th agonizing week, the practical ramifications of the theft became impossible to ignore. My dream home? Gone. The sellers accepted another offer. My financial advisors were asking uncomfortable questions about the missing funds. And in the tech community, rumors started circulating about my judgment, my stability. My entire life was unraveling, thread by painful thread, and I felt utterly powerless to stop it. 6 weeks after the theft, I sat in Detective Martinez's office, the now familiar space doing nothing to soften the blow of her latest update. "The Singaporean authorities found the hotel where they stayed," she explained, sliding photos across her desk. "But they checked out 3 days ago. They've changed their appearances." I stared at the surveillance images. My mother's once shoulder-length gray hair was now a chic, rich auburn bob. Rebecca had gone blonde, wearing colored contacts that changed her brown eyes to an unnatural blue. Both had lost weight, dressed in expensive designer clothes I didn't recognize. "They don't even look like themselves," I murmured, tracing my finger over my mother's stranger-like face. "They're using the names Catherine and Emily Bradford. We believe they purchased these identities on the dark web. Elaborate forgeries, with digital fingerprints going back years." "How is that even possible?" I asked, bewildered. Detective Martinez leaned back. "With enough money, unfortunately, almost anything is possible. The network they're working with specializes in this type of identity transformation. They create paper trails, digital footprints, even social media histories." "So, you're saying they could be anyone, anywhere," I whispered, "and we'd have no way of knowing?" "Not exactly," she clarified. "These identities were discovered because we knew to look for them. But yes, they're making tracking them significantly more difficult." I left the police station feeling hollowed out, empty. Every lead dissolved into nothing. My mother and sister were professional ghosts now, slipping through international jurisdictions with their new identities and seemingly limitless funds. When I got back to my apartment, I had 3 new voicemails. The first, from Richard Bennett, my lawyer, with another update on international legal filings. The second, from the real estate agent, checking if I wanted to view a new property. A cruel reminder of what I'd lost. The third, from Marcus Wilson, a potential business partner. His message was polite, but crystal clear. Given the recent complications in your personal situation, I think it's best if we put our discussions on hold for now. Call me when things settle down. It wasn't the first professional opportunity that had evaporated. A profile in Tech Innovators Monthly had been quietly canceled. Speaking engagements rescheduled. Former colleagues, who were so eager to collaborate, suddenly had full calendars. The tech world, for all its talk of disruption, was deeply conservative about personal instability. No one wanted to align themselves with someone whose judgment was so publicly called into question. If I couldn't protect my own assets from my own family, how could I be trusted with investors' money? The breaking point came that evening. Jason returned from work, his expression carefully neutral as he set his laptop bag down. "I got a call from Detective Martinez today," he said. "She wanted to know if I'd heard anything from your mother or sister." "And had you?" The question came out sharper, more accusatory than I intended. His face hardened. "Of course not. But the fact that you'd even ask that, it says everything about where we are right now." "Where we are?" I echoed. "Yes, Mackenzie. Where we are." He gestured between us. "You don't sleep. You barely eat. You spend every waking moment either talking to the detective or that lawyer or endlessly scrolling through international banking regulations. When was the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about the theft?" I tried to remember. I couldn't. The theft had become my whole world. The pursuit of justice, my only purpose. "They stole $10 million, Jason. What am I supposed to do? Just let it go?" "No, but you need to find a way to live while you're dealing with this. It's been 6 weeks, and you're still in exactly the same place as the day it happened. That's not fair." "What's not fair," he shot back, his voice cracking slightly, "is watching the woman I love disappear into this black hole of obsession and being completely powerless to help her. I've tried to be patient, I've tried to be supportive, but you're not letting me in, Mac. You're shutting down every attempt I make to connect." Defensive anger flared inside me. "So, this is my fault? I'm the victim here." "Yes, you are," he said, his voice softer now. "But you're using that as an excuse to push away everyone who cares about you. Your friends have stopped calling because you never return their messages. You've turned down every invitation. And when I try to talk about anything other than the theft, you shut down or find a way to circle back to it." Deep down, I knew he was right. But admitting it felt like another surrender, another profound loss I couldn't afford. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice small, defeated. Jason ran a hand through his hair. "I want you to decide if there's room in your life for anything besides this pursuit. Because right now, it doesn't feel like there is. Are you giving me an ultimatum?" "I'm asking for honesty, Mackenzie. Can you see a future beyond this? Can you imagine a day when you're not consumed by finding them?" I opened my mouth to say yes, to promise him I could move forward, but the words wouldn't come. The truth was, I couldn't imagine it. The betrayal had become my identity. The pursuit had become my purpose. "I think I need some space," Jason finally said into the crushing silence. "I'm going to stay with Greg for a while. When you're ready to have a life again, a real life, not this holding pattern, call me." He packed a bag while I sat motionless on the couch, unable to find the words to make him stay. Unsure if I even wanted to. When the door closed behind him, the apartment felt impossibly, achingly empty. I spent that night alone, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 6 weeks. Then I stretched it back further, examining my entire relationship with my mother and sister through this new, tainted lens. Had there been signs all along? Had I been willfully blind because acknowledging the truth was too painful? Or had they genuinely changed, corrupted by the prospect of wealth beyond their imagining? By morning, I'd hit rock bottom. I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten. Jason was gone. My professional reputation was in tatters. The money was still missing, and despite weeks of international investigation, my mother and sister remained free, enjoying the fruits of their betrayal. I stood in my kitchen, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. The woman looking back at me was a stranger, hollow-eyed, gaunt, utterly defeated. This wasn't who I was. This wasn't who I wanted to be. Something had to change. I just didn't know what or how. The call that changed everything came at 2:17 a.m., jolting me awake from a fitful sleep. I fumbled for my phone, squinting at the screen. It was Trevor Sullivan, one of the security guards who'd escorted me that fateful day. "Trevor, what's wrong?" My voice was thick with sleep. "Miss Walker, I apologize for calling so late, but I need to speak with you immediately. In person. It's about your situation." Fully awake now, I sat up. "It's the middle of the night. Can this wait?" "No, ma'am. It can't. What I need to tell you shouldn't be discussed over the phone. I can be at your apartment in 20 minutes. His tone left absolutely no room for argument. "All right," I said. "I'll be here." Exactly 19 minutes later, my doorbell rang. Trevor stood in the hallway, still in his security polo, his expression grave. "Thank you for seeing me," he said as I let him in. "Is the apartment secure? No cleaning service or maintenance staff been here recently?" "No, just me." "What's this about, Trevor?" He scanned the living room, taking a deep breath before he spoke. "The money your mother and sister took, it wasn't real." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "What?" "The cash in those bags was counterfeit. Sophisticated fakes, yes, but fake nonetheless." I sank onto the couch, struggling to process his words. "That's impossible. I withdrew it from Pacific Northwest Bank myself." "You were there?" Trevor nodded. "Yes, but what you don't know is that Kyle, my boss, has a standard protocol for high-value transports. All cash bundles are tagged with tracking devices and security strips. When we placed the bags in your mother's safe, I activated those systems. And the trackers showed the bags leaving your mother's house at 4:12 a.m., heading to a private airfield. But here's the thing. The security strips detect the chemical composition of real currency. 2 hours after the bags left, the strips registered a complete change in composition. The real money had been swapped out. My mind raced, trying desperately to make sense of this. So, someone stole the real money before my mother took the bags? A double theft. Trevor shifted uncomfortably. Not exactly. The swap happened at Kyle's secure facility, the night before we delivered it to your mother's house. The money was replaced with high-quality counterfeits, visually indistinguishable from real currency. "Are you saying Kyle stole my money?" Anger began to boil, replacing my confusion. "No, Miss Walker." Trevor took a slow, deliberate breath. "I'm saying, you arranged the switch yourself." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. "What?" 3 days before the withdrawal, you contacted Kyle privately. You said you had concerns about your mother's intentions and wanted to set up a contingency plan. You had us swap the real cash for counterfeits and secure the authentic currency in our most protected vault. My head spun. "Trevor, I never did that. I would remember something like that." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded document. "This is the special instruction form you signed. That's your signature, isn't it?" I stared at the paper. My unmistakable signature, authorizing exactly what Trevor had described. A memory flickered, a fleeting moment of Kyle pulling me aside at the bank. A brief conversation I dismissed as standard security protocol. Signing something without fully reading it, amidst the overwhelming stress of the massive withdrawal. I don't remember this specifically, I admitted, my voice weak. But everything was so chaotic that day. Kyle wanted to contact you immediately after your mother took the bags, Trevor continued, but our monitoring system malfunctioned. We only confirmed the switch happened yesterday when we did a full system diagnostic. He sent me to tell you in person, because of the sensitive nature of the situation. So, I said, a strange sensation bubbling up inside me. My mother and sister have bags full of extremely convincing, but ultimately, worthless paper. And the real $10 million is in your secure facility, waiting for my instructions. Laughter burst out of me. Strange, almost hysterical laughter I couldn't control. All this time. All this anguish. And my mother and sister had stolen worthless counterfeits. The cosmic justice of it all was almost too perfect to believe. I need to see it, I finally managed to say, my voice steadying. The real money. I need to see it with my own eyes. Of course. I can take you there now. 2 hours later, I stood in a climate-controlled vault beneath Kyle's security company headquarters, staring at 3 familiar duffel bags. With trembling hands, I unzipped one, revealing stacks of genuine $500 bills, exactly as I remembered from the bank. It's all here, Kyle confirmed, standing beside me. $10 million. Untouched. And the tracking devices and the fake money? I asked, a plan already forming in my mind. Still active. We can monitor their location in real time. He showed me a tablet, a blinking dot on a map, currently showing movement in Monaco. I straightened my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly awake. I want everything you have on their movements. Every location. Every stop. Every transaction you can trace. Miss Walker, if I may ask, Kyle said carefully, what are you planning to do? A slow, deliberate smile spread across my face. Not the broken, hollow expression I'd worn for weeks. This was something sharper, more determined. Something I should have done from the beginning. Asterisk, I'm going to take control of the situation. Asterisk, over the next 72 hours, I underwent a complete transformation. From victim to strategist. I assembled a small, trusted team, Kyle for his security expertise, Detective Martinez, who was initially skeptical, but quickly convinced by the undeniable evidence, Haley Winters, my former chief operations officer and closest friend, and Richard Bennett, my lawyer, who navigated all the international legal complexities. We gathered in a conference room at Kyle's facility, surrounded by maps, financial records, and surveillance photos. The tracking data from those counterfeit bills gave us a detailed, startlingly accurate picture of Mom and Rebecca's movements across Europe and Asia. They've established a pattern, I explained, pointing to the map. After Singapore, they went to Dubai, then Monaco. Now they're in Nice. They're staying at 5-star resorts, shopping at luxury boutiques, dining at Michelin-starred restaurants. They're spending what they think is my money as quickly as possible. Based on their current rate of expenditure, Haley noted, analyzing the financial data, they'd burn through all $10 million within 18 months. They're not just spending, Detective Martinez added. They're flaunting it. Look at these social media accounts. She displayed several Instagram profiles showing carefully cropped photos, luxury goods, exotic locations, champagne toasts. The faces were never clearly visible, but I recognized Mom's hands, Rebecca's distinctive posture. They wanted me to see it, I realized. They thought I was tracking these accounts, watching them enjoy what they stole, rubbing it in my face. Which gives us an advantage, Kyle interjected. They're predictable based on these posts and spending patterns. We believe they're headed to Milan next, likely arriving within 3 days. Then that's where we'll be waiting, I declared, a steeliness in my voice I hadn't heard in months. I want to see their faces when they realize what they actually took. The plan came together with military precision. Private investigators in France confirmed Mom and Rebecca had booked flights to Milan. Hotel reservations under their false identities were found at the exclusive Palazzo Parigi. Richard arranged full cooperation from Italian financial authorities, who were very interested in the movement of counterfeit currency. 5 days later, I sat in a first-class seat bound for Milan, Haley beside me, reviewing our strategy one final time. For the first time since the theft, I felt something new, peace. Not because I was about to confront them, but because I had reclaimed my agency, my power. Are you nervous? Haley asked as our plane began its descent. I considered the question. No, I replied, surprising even myself with the truth of it. Asterisk, I'm ready. Asterisk, Milan greeted us with unseasonably warm sunshine and clear blue skies, almost as if the universe itself was approving of what was about to unfold. Our team set up a command center in a suite at a hotel near the Palazzo Parigi, where Kyle's surveillance confirmed Mom and Rebecca had checked in that morning. They've made dinner reservations at La Scala for 8, Detective Martinez informed us, reviewing intel from our Italian counterparts. Private table in the back. Champagne pre-ordered. Perfect, I said, studying the restaurant's floor plan. We'll confront them there. Public enough that they can't make a scene. Private enough for what really needs to be said. Richard Bennett nervously adjusted his tie. Remember, we have Italian financial authorities standing by. Once we confirm the counterfeit bills are in their possession, they'll move in. I nodded. A strange, almost eerie calm had settled over me. The raw fury that had driven me for weeks had transformed into something colder, more focused. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about closure. It was about reclaiming my narrative. At precisely 8:15 p.m., I walked into La Scala. Simple black dress, hair pulled back sleek. Haley and Kyle positioned themselves at the bar. Detective Martinez waited outside with the Italian authorities. Richard stayed at the command center, coordinating our legal response. I spotted them immediately. Mom, draped in an emerald green designer gown I'd never seen, her new auburn hair elegantly styled. Rebecca, sparkling in what looked like Chanel diamond earrings, laughing at something on her phone. Between them, an open bottle of Dom Perignon and a black Hermes handbag, likely filled with their worthless loot. They didn't even notice me until I was standing directly beside their table. Room for one more? I asked, my voice soft, but firm. The transformation on their faces, it would have been comical if it weren't so tragic. Shock, then fear, then utter confusion chased each other across their features as they finally registered my presence. Mackenzie? My mother's voice was barely a whisper. How did you find us? It wasn't difficult, I replied, pulling out a chair and sitting down, signaling to the hovering waiter that everything was just fine. You haven't exactly been subtle. Nice dress, by the way, Valentino. Rebecca recovered first, her expression hardening. What do you want? Come to beg for your money back. I smiled, the calm inside me deepening, like a still, dark lake. Actually, I came to ask how you're enjoying spending it. Is it everything you dreamed it would be? My mother's eyes narrowed with suspicion. What kind of game are you playing? No game. I'm genuinely curious. $10 million is a lot of money. Has it been worth it? Worth destroying our family? Worth becoming fugitives? Worth throwing away any shred of integrity you might have had left? Rebecca scoffed, though it sounded forced. Save the guilt trip, Mackenzie. You can make another $10 million with your precious company. This was our only chance at the life we deserve. The life you deserve, I repeated thoughtfully. And what exactly do you think that is? Freedom, my mother burst out, finding her voice. Freedom from struggling, from always being one emergency away from disaster. From watching you succeed while you wet. I interrupted, a sharp edge entering my voice. Lived in the house I bought you? Accepted the monthly allowance I provided? Called me every time you needed money for another self-inflicted crisis. I took a breath, centering myself. But that's not really why I'm here. I reached for Rebecca's Hermes bag, ignoring her squawk of protest, opened it, and removed a stack of bills. Do you know what's special about $500 bills? They exchanged confused glances. They're rare enough that most people have never handled one, which makes them perfect for counterfeiting if you know what you're doing. I held the stack up to the light, showing them the watermark. High-quality fakes. Almost impossible to detect without special equipment. The blood drained from my mother's face. What are you talking about? The money you stole, I stated, flatly. Asterisk its fake star. Every single bill. Worthless. Rebecca snatched the stack from my hand, examining them frantically. You're lying. We've been spending it for weeks. Small amounts, in tourist areas where cashiers don't look too closely. Or at luxury stores where they were distracted by your apparent wealth. But try depositing a significant sum in a bank. Try purchasing property. It won't work. My mother's hands trembled as she reached for her wine glass. I don't believe you. The real money, I continued, my voice steady, never left the security company's vault. It's still there. All $10 million, waiting for me to use it as intended. That's impossible. Rebecca hissed. We took it from the safe ourselves. After it had been swapped for counterfeits, yes. I leaned forward, my gaze piercing. Did you really think I'd leave that much cash unsecured, without a backup plan? I knew something was wrong. I didn't want to believe it was you, but I protected myself anyway. The truth of my words registered in their expressions, dawning horror mixed with utter disbelief. Rebecca began frantically rifling through her bag, examining the bills more closely. Even if that's true, my mother said, her voice now unsteady. You can't prove we took it. It would be your word against ours. That might have been true, I said, a slow, grim smile touching my lips. Except for the tracking devices embedded in those counterfeit bills. Devices that have been recording your movements across 3 continents. I gestured subtly toward the entrance. Detective Martinez stood there, flanked by 2 Italian officers. The authorities know exactly where you've been. And what you've done. What followed was surprisingly anticlimactic. The Italian officers approached quietly, discreetly showed their badges, and asked us all to come with them. Mom and Rebecca were separated for questioning. Their hotel rooms were searched, revealing nearly $7 million in counterfeit bills they hadn't yet managed to spend. In a sterile interview room at the Milan Financial Crimes Division, I sat across from my mother for what I knew, deep down, would be the last time. Her designer dress looked so out of place against the harsh institutional furniture. Her carefully applied makeup was smudged from crying. Why? I asked simply. I gave you everything you ever asked for. What made you think you deserved it all? She wouldn't meet my eyes. You make it sound so simple. It is simple, Mom. You're my mother. I loved you. I trusted you. Then, the words burst from her like they'd been held back for years. And you had everything. Everything always came so easily to you. Good grades, scholarships, success. Do you know what it's like to watch your child surpass you in every possible way? To become the charity case in your daughter's perfect life? I never saw you that way, I responded, my voice tinged with a sadness I hadn't expected. I wanted to share my success with you, with both of you. On your terms, she countered bitterly. Your money, your rules, your constant judgment about how we lived our lives. I considered this for a moment, wondering if there was a sliver of truth in her warped perception that I hadn't recognized. Maybe there were times I was too controlling with the help I offered. But stealing from me? Planning it for months? That wasn't a response to controlling behavior. That was something far, far darker. She had no answer for that. In another room, Rebecca was far more forthcoming with Detective Martinez, probably hoping for leniency. She detailed everything, how Mom had first proposed the idea after hearing about my company's acquisition, how they'd researched ways to disappear with large sums of money, practiced opening the safe when I visited, and meticulously cultivated their cover story about the Garden Club meeting. The legal proceedings were complex, spanning multiple jurisdictions. In the end, both faced charges for theft, possession of counterfeit currency, and fraud. My mother received a 5-year sentence. Rebecca, 3 years, with the possibility of parole after 18 months. The question of whether to press charges had been agonizing. Both Richard and Detective Martinez advised me to, arguing that without consequences, they might target someone else. In the end, I agreed, though I declined to provide victim impact statements that might have lengthened their sentences. They've lost everything that matters, I told Richard as we finalized the paperwork. Their freedom, their relationship with me, their credibility. That's punishment enough. 3 months after the confrontation in Milan, I finally completed the purchase of my dream home. Not the glass and steel mansion I'd originally coveted, but a warm, welcoming property on a wooded lot overlooking the city. It had fewer bedrooms, but so much more character. Wraparound porches, perfect for morning coffee, and a sense of security I desperately needed. Jason had returned after the confrontation in Milan. His pride in how I'd handled the situation rekindled what had dimmed between us. We were rebuilding slowly, with regular date nights and a standing appointment with a couples therapist, helping us process the trauma of the past months. You know what's ironic? I said to him one evening, as we sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. If they'd just asked, I would have given them money. Not $10 million, but enough to genuinely change their lives for the better. Jason's arm tightened around my shoulders. Some people can't ask, Mac. Taking feels like power to them, especially when asking would mean acknowledging you had something they needed. I'm not sure I'll ever understand it completely, I admitted, leaning into him. But I'm learning to live with the questions. And I was. The nightmares had subsided. I'd returned to work, launching a consulting firm that allowed me to leverage my technical expertise without the all-consuming pressure of running a startup. I'd reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my obsessive pursuit and found unexpected strength and vulnerability as I shared my story. Perhaps most importantly, I'd learned to trust again, cautiously, wisely, but genuinely. The betrayal had not defined me. It had merely informed who I would become next. You know, Jason said, breaking the comfortable silence between us. Most people would have been destroyed by what happened to you. But you turned it around. You're stronger now than you were before. I considered this, watching the last rays of sunlight disappear beyond the horizon. Not stronger, I corrected gently, a soft smile on my face. Just more myself. More certain of what truly matters. What mattered, I discovered, wasn't the money or even the justice I'd obtained. It was the capacity to face betrayal without becoming bitter. To seek truth without losing compassion. To rebuild without forgetting the hard lessons of what had been broken. As darkness settled around us, I found myself genuinely grateful, not for what had happened, but for what it had revealed, my own resilience, the unwavering loyalty of those who had stood beside me, and the profound understanding that while trust could be shattered, it could also be rebuilt, stronger and wiser than before. I've shared this incredibly personal story not just for the shock value or to satisfy curiosity about family drama and financial crime. I've shared it because I know many of you watching have experienced your own betrayals in life. Maybe not on this scale, but painful nonetheless. If my experience offers any comfort or wisdom, it's this simple truth. Betrayal tells you everything about the betrayer and absolutely nothing about your worth. So, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a betrayal that ultimately made you stronger? Or taught you an unexpected lesson? Share your story in the comments below. I truly want to know. And if this resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to join our community of resilient survivors, and let's keep these conversations going. Because sometimes, the greatest plot twists in our lives lead to the most beautiful rewritings of our stories. Thank you for listening, and until next time, trust wisely, but never stop trusting completely.